That's right. So I'll start us out on this one because I've got a little bit of.
I see that you have brought props today.
I've got some fucking notes.
We'd love to see it.
So this is welcome to Morbid Mondays again. Now it's my turn. Last week we did the Magdalene laundries, and I was suitably disgusted. So, and I figure that was pretty hard on both of us. So instead of another hard subject, I figured we would go on a little holiday trip.
Oh, we're taking a comedy break. I love it, because I was thinking the same thing.
It's a holiday in Cambodia.
Oh, this is going to go one of two ways.
It's for all of those older people who might know who the dead Kennedys are. So I want to start off on a note. We kind of had a conversation about this, and it came to my attention that you didn't know what I was.
I have no clue. I remember you being very excited to tell me about this, and then stopping yourself because you were going to make it the subject of your next episode. And here we are, and I have very, very studiously not looked any of it up, even though my curiosity is piqued. So
we'll start with ancient Cambodia. Not super ancient, but old Cambodia, and what is called the Khmer Empire. The Khmer Empire was pretty big. They controlled most of what we would call Southeast Asia. Mm-hmm. So like Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, parts of Thailand, everything kind of in that vein. Mm-hmm. They controlled it because they controlled the rivers. And they had a lot of power in what is called the Mekong Delta, which is where a lot of our Vietnam-era fighting happened. They're a little upriver from that.
Which is dark in and of itself.
Yeah. And then they kind of fell into a little bit of, like, collapse, and the Khmer Empire kind of folded in on itself. I bring all that up to talk about a young man who was born in that part of the world, in the upper rivers area of Cambodia. And his name is Salasar. So Salasar is born into the French colonial period of Cambodia, and all of Vietnam, all those areas in there are part of the French Empire. When he's born, they're a protectorate kingdom, so they have their own king, but it's part of France in a kind of Commonwealth kind of way.
Yeah, what a time to be alive.
Yeah, he's born relatively well off. His family has probably close to, so some sources say close to 10 times the amount of land of the average farmer in the area. When crops come, they are able to hire some of the poorer people in the area to help them work the harvests. So he's doing all right. Salasar is an interesting guy because he's of mixed Chinese and ethnic Khmer heritage. Mm-hmm. During the olden days of the Chinese Empire, they're spread all over the place through Korea, through all of Southeast Asia. There's a lot of ethnic Chinese throughout Southeast Asia. His father, like I said, prosperous farmer, has about 22 acres of land. That's pretty good in that part of the world. Large family. His mother's a respected Buddhist person.
I would expect nothing less from this particular era.
Yeah, we got like 12 kids going on. 3 of them unfortunately die fairly young.
That's standard.
It's it's pretty standard. Was the 8th he was one of the last of 9 children. So Salasar, he's not a great student, right? He graduates, he goes to a Catholic monastery school, graduates, he gets held back a couple of years.
Oof.
But he does graduate, and he ends up going to Paris. And in Paris, he gets like a proper education.
That was a fucking choice, considering.
Yeah, right. But we're in it's France, and he goes there. It should be said. So Salasar is also, and I'm probably butchering his name, but he's somewhat related to Cambodian royalty. Mm-hmm. Little bit. We'll get into that later.
Second or third cousins.
Yeah. This is a complex. It's a complex political structure that's going on. Like, you still have a king that he has consorts. Mm-hmm. There's like it's old Siam kind of political structure. So
we're talking like emperor and his harem.
Yeah, pretty much. Like it's that kind of thing, but like also to be a consort of the king is like a pretty sweet gig, and it's it clashes with our Western sensibilities, but when you look at like ancient China, it's kind of the same thing.
It's so fucking weird. I'm sorry, I don't mean to derail you here, but that is so fucking weird to me because like that only arose, I want to say maybe 500-600 years ago in like Western mentality.
Yeah.
Like kind of, I don't want to blame everything on Christianity, but
it's the start of like. Western civilization picks up a distinctly king-queen bent, where it's like an emperor, you don't want to have a lot of...
It's the monogamy of it.
Yeah.
Like, it is not only, like, the ideals of one husband, one wife, but it's being able to keep a tight track on the bloodlines.
Yes.
I mean, and that's kind of how we got one of the most famous inbred dynasties.
Yeah.
We'll go into that at some point. But I'll let you continue. Sorry, was...
Yeah, having a bunch of, like, consorts, wives, or, like, what would be considered illegitimate children in Western civilization usually leads to rebellions.
Yes.
Right? And this does happen in Asia a couple of times, but normally there's some kind of strict hierarchy. Like, the
like
children...
Usually it's the first son of the queen
that
will inherit the throne. Meanwhile, the most favored consort had her first son like 6 years before that kid was born.
Yeah.
So he's lived as the heir of the throne until suddenly he's been usurped.
Yeah. And so
that's how you get rebellions.
Yeah, there can be a little bit of drama around that. A lot of times the children of concubines are just kind of like auto upper class. Like they get sent to school and stuff, so like it's not necessarily a bad thing to be the son or daughter of a consort.
Titles. Like they're not like disgraced or anything like we would think of them now.
Yeah,
like
they're not illegitimate in the way that they might have been in Western society.
Yeah.
They're more like
Dukes,
instead of being
duchesses.
Princes, they'd be dukes. Yeah, like they're kind of on a different thing.
It's occasionally weird when our brains do that.
And I'm not sure if that's the case in Cambodia. I'm just kind of superimposing my knowledge of Imperial China onto this.
Hey, same.
So he goes for a little while through Buddhist schools and stuff in Cambodia. Then he goes to Paris in 1935. Sorry.
So this is like recent.
Yeah, so this is modern history. We're in modern history here, and when I tell you who Salazar is, it's going to ring a bell.
Of course.
So I actually jumped the gun a little bit. 1935, he's in a Roman Catholic primary school. That's where he's not a great student, and he gets held back for a little while. Then he goes on. For a little while there, he is visiting one of his relatives in the king's place for a little while in the palace, and he gets to know them pretty well. Now we're on to the real notes. All right, so in 1949, he's educated in Paris, where he joins the Communist Party, the French Communist Party. In 1951, there was a brief stint of communism, also a brief stint of fascism in France for a little while. After World War II, they kind of yo-yo for a bit.
It's catching, like syphilis.
Yeah. It always comes back to syphilis. And in 1953, he's back in Cambodia. Now he's gotten an education in France. He comes back,
educated, refined.
Yeah, he plays sports. He's active in sports. He plays violin. He's pretty embedded into like the student life in France. And he comes back and he immediately joins the Khmer Viet Minh guerrilla. That requires some explanation.
Please, because what I know of guerrilla may not be what applies here.
It's pretty much that, right? That part is right there. Khmer is like this is why we touched on ancient Cambodian civilization. Khmer is the predominant ethnic group of Cambodia. So there's different ways to say this. I'm not saying it right because I have no idea how to pronounce Cambodian. But if you've ever seen the movie Mortal Kombat, the giant like stone place with all the peaks that they're fighting in, that is called Angkor Wat. It's a big palace. It's an old ancient building in Cambodia.
Okay.
Or rather, a Khmer structure. It's from that culture. So big stone heads, giant Buddhist spires, that kind of stuff, right? The Viet Minh are a political group, a leftist political group in Vietnam. They are going to become the leaders of North Vietnam. At this point, they already are. They're moving pretty heavily we're moving into the Vietnam War era.
Fun.
When he joins the Viet Minh, the Khmer Viet Minh, so these are the Cambodian branch of the leftist Vietnam. There's a lot of Vietnamese in Cambodia at the time. So they're fighting against Sihanouk, who's the king, right? So there's a kingdom. He's the vassal king of France, pretty much. Like this is part of the protectorate Commonwealth structure. They fight for a little while. There's a small civil war over this. And in 1954, they retreat into North Vietnam. And he stays in Cambodia. He actually becomes a school teacher in Phnom Penh, which is one of the capital cities, like big cities in the area, where he helped coalesce a Marxist-Leninist group into what is called the Kampuchean Party. Kampuchean will later be what the country of Cambodia kind of calls itself in several of these eras. And this Communist Party is called the CPK. Communist Party Kampuchean, because remember these are French, so like their sentence structure and stuff like that. A lot of it's going to have French sentence structure. Something you encounter in Vietnamese stuff quite a bit is that about half of it's in French. Colonialism.
Yeah, but that's
so this goes fairly well. The party gathers a lot of people because Cambodia is very rural. It's got a lot of people who are just working the fields. And when you have a elite structure that's kind of over a lot of just farmhands and industrial factory workers, communism does pretty well as a concept. I got to break here for a moment because I got to define communism as they would know it.
Okay.
These are Maoists. So we're not talking the book of Karl Marx. Chairman Mao of China was a Leninist that did not go the Stalin route. He went a different route. Stalin had to go very big government, very industrial, very fast to fight the Germans. And there was a specific way he wanted to do that. And the cultural things that they really wanted. Yeah, Mao was big on something called the Cultural Revolution. He believed that Chinese culture was very imperialist at its core and it needed to be remade. So they did what was called the Great Leap Forward. Bum, bum, bum. And a lot of people died. Yeah, like the Great Leap Forward is not great.
Yeah.
It very much like Stalin, when he tried to industrialize very quickly, China did the same thing, but they went from a largely rural and like mercantilism culture to an industrial culture. Farm planning went poorly, and a lot of people died. There was a big famine. But that's Maoism, right? Mao has the little red book and all that kind of stuff. It's a very specific kind of communism. That's really what we're talking about here when we say communism. Mixed with, and we're going to see that here in a second. So
communism cocktail.
Yeah, so Salazar goes into the jungles, fleeing governmental pressure in 1962. There's a crackdown. Communists are getting a little too strong. The principality government starts just knocking heads. And they're going to get these guys out because they're becoming dangerous, right? They flee into the jungle, 1962, and Salazar lives in a base for about a year, which brings us into 63, where he becomes the CPK's leader. He's now the tiny chairman of the CPK. He's the spokes guy. He's the Lenin or the Stalin of his era, right? In this thing. And he adopts a special nickname for what he wants to be, right? This is to largely protect his family.
Okay.
He doesn't want people to call him Salazar because it might lead his family to be imprisoned as political prisoners. So he starts calling himself the Potential Politique, or for short, Pol Pot. Have you ever heard of Pol Pot?
I have not. I have no earthly idea what any of this is, and I feel like I should.
So Pol Pot is a guy that is really relevant to world tragedies, and a lot of people don't know about him because unfortunately we as Americans were heavily involved in Pol Pot.
Oh no.
Not directly. We didn't cause what he did, but while he's in the jungle, the Vietnam War has started. And there is something called the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Right?
Okay, I'm familiar with that name.
Yeah, Ho Chi Minh is the leader of the Viet Cong. He was also educated in France. He is a nationalist. And he first reaches out to the U.S. for help kicking the French out. Because he was like, you were a colonial, underdog, and you fought off your colonial captors. Help us do the same. Spread democracy over here. We'll become a little democracy in Southeast Asia, and we'll give you a route when you have to deal with the Chinese, all that kind of stuff. And we rejected Ho Chi Minh. But he wants the French out because colonial France is not great. Mm-hmm. Being in Vietnam sucks, right? The French are very bad in Vietnam. So he reaches out to Mao and Stalin and the other powers, right? And he gets guns and all that kind of stuff, kicks off the war, and they start fighting. The U.S. gets involved in order to stop the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which is a logistical trail that runs through Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and on bikes, basically. They put like guns and food and stuff on bicycles and like walk it through a jungle trail so that there are no big roads. Because we have air supremacy, we're bombing the fuck out of everything. We dropped more bombs in Vietnam that were dropped in Germany.
Jesus.
So, like, yeah.
Way to go, U.S.
If you look at an aerial map of Vietnam, there are just, like, pock marks all throughout the forest where the elevation dips. That's from very large bombs called daisy cutters that were dropped. And the whole point of daisy cutters, they blow all the trees away. And the big grass and all that. And then you can land helicopters there. Oh. So, yeah. Untold devastation.
Jesus.
There's something that happens to the CIA and a kind of a quiet deal where we start bombing into Cambodia. So the Cambodian king initially says you can, and then he withdraws that because of how like indiscriminate it is, but we keep doing it. That indiscriminate bombing leads a lot of... There's panic amongst the farmers and people who live out in the jungle and around these trail sites. Mm-hmm. So they turn to the communist leaders because the king isn't doing anything. Right, and they want someone to do something.
I would imagine. People are dying.
So it becomes very popular, right? That's kind of what causes the CPK to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. Back to Cambodia. 1970, U.S. backed, the United States backed a guy called Marshal Lom Nol. He holds a coup to overturn the king because shit's not working, right?
Yeah.
And so he's the military leader of the country. But because... this rarely turns out well when the U.S. especially back the military leader of a country to overthrow the king or the democratically elected government or whoever. The guy that runs it usually turns out pretty fucking bad.
Almost always.
Almost always.
Almost always.
This is not any different. So the CPK backs the king, who they've been fighting against, with the help of North Vietnamese troops.
Jesus, about face?
Yeah, big switch, right?
Jesus.
Because the shit has hit the fan.
Yeah.
Right? Everything's going crazy. It's better to fight a guy to ally yourself with someone you at least understand.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, if you lose to the king, well then you're just at square one. You're kind of fine. If this guy takes over, who the fuck knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, that's a whole bunch of unknowns. Yeah, I know, I get it.
So, by 1975, they're winning. CPK controls most of Cambodia. They changed the name to Democratic Kampuchea. And now you kind of know where we're at, right? We've gone from a young kid living out in the Delta, in this little city that's by a river, to a man who's now controlling a whole country. And he's a Maoist, and he's got this idea that Cambodia's not doing great. They've got a king. They're behind the times. The rest of the world is democratically elected or they're communist, but they're industrialized. Mm-hmm. They're becoming part of a globalist economy. And Cambodia has a king and consorts and concubines. They are behind. And just like Chairman Mao, he's going to throw out the old culture and start all over with a plan that he calls Year Zero.
That doesn't work.
It doesn't. And we're going to see how bad and why it doesn't work. So he gets the term Year Zero from his time in France. Mm-hmm. Year Zero is what the French revolutionaries called their first year when the empire stopped, right? And they became the French revolutionary, somewhat anarchist government, as we would call it today, kind of like a democratically elected anarcho-government. Mm-hmm. And started what historians commonly call the Great Terror.
Yeah.
And we're gonna... There's
a fucking reason this doesn't work.
Yeah, the thing they politely skip in most high school classes is the French Revolution turned out real bad. Real fast.
That was always the highlight of my day, was correcting my teacher.
Yeah, it was like, this is not, in fact, where democracy starts. It's where we get a horrible, like, maybe necessary, but definitely went way too far, period. So, but Pol Pot sees this because he goes to modern France, right? This is post-World War II France. De Gaulle's France.
Yeah.
And he sees modern everything. He sees soldiers from an allied nations coming to and fro through France. Everybody's having a fucking booming economy. France is doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And so, like, he looks at that and he kind of idolizes it. In their revolution, buddy. Because the French are big on this, right? Even today, they're like, if you fuck with their like benefits or something, they go ape shit. They burn stuff down.
Yeah, we've seen this recently in the news.
Yeah, and they probably should. You know, like in many cases, they're very justified in doing so. But so, taking those cues from revolutionary France, taking our boy Chairman Mao.
Year zero.
He's going to start year zero, which is basically a societal reset. Nothing before this date is relevant. We're going to rebuild society from the ground up to an agrarian utopia. There's our first major change.
Red flag. Red flag.
Big change,
red
right?
Flag.
This is different from Mao. Mao wants industrialization. The revolt of France was based around the destroying of the aristocracy, but France was kind of going to stay the same for the most part.
Yeah.
In France, the biggest issue they had after the French Revolution was called the blackbreads. So the blackbreads in revolutionary France were these guys, the farmer unions, right? They were out there, not unions per se, but the farmers who supplied bread and grain to Paris kind of stopped.
Yeah.
There was no gendarmes to go enforce this, right? So they had a bargaining chip for the first time, and they wanted to bring themselves up right along with everyone else. That caused a major problem in France. And one of the first things they ran into was solving that problem. Later on, a very good writer called Kropotkin is going to write a book called The Conquest of Bread, which kind of spells out if you have a complete revolution, you've got to solve the food problem first. And our boy Pol Pot, he takes note of this. So he tries to, in his great revolution, start agrarian. And the first thing he wants to do is take all the people out of the cities and put them in the fields.
No! No!
That works, right? We're going to take a couple million people and we're going to put them in the jungle. So, because it is the jungle. We're not talking about like the German flatland or the French countryside. No, we're talking about the Cambodian jungle. Deltas. Yeah.
It's wet and dense.
And there's no place to put 2 million people.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just not how that works. As I said, he wants to destroy the old and kind of outlaw the previous culture. So here's how he's going to do this. Because it's going to get weirder than just moving 2 million people to the jungle. The population of Cambodia is about 8 million right now. Mm-hmm. To move all these people, first he's going to send all of them into farming co-op work camps. So they're kind of zoning it off. This farm needs 100 workers. We're going to send 100 workers over here. So there's like a per acre number. He also dismantled a lot of the social fabric because he wants, like I said, total reset. Year zero, the old culture's out. To make this new agrarian utopia, he's got to break down anything. By societal fabric, what they mean is dismantling industry, banning religion. A lot of us listening to this are going to jump straight to Christianity because we live in the West. Buddhism is the major religion of Cambodia. There are definitely Catholics. He goes to a Catholic school and all that. It's not the major religion of Cambodia. It comes in with the French.
Yeah.
Major religions are Buddhism and also the religions of the people who are indigenous to the various areas. Books. There's a big book burning going on. The abolition of money is a big one.
Oh.
Now, our listeners might agree or disagree with this one. A lot of anarchists still to this day will advocate for the destruction of money. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about this and how he arrives to this. Pol Pot spends a great deal of time in France. Mm-hmm. So a big author in France around anarchism is named Joseph Proudhon. Mm-hmm. Proudhon advocates directly for the abolition of all money right off the bat. Mm-hmm. Because money holds as a function excess labor. And you'll hear a lot of people talking all the time about what's a stand-in for barter. That's never really been true. That's not how money comes about in most economies. You have like a kind of gift economy for a little while, and then somebody says, well, I don't have a thing to gift right now or whatever, or let's say you have so much grain and I've sold it, or you're going to do work for this amount of time and that means this much food in the future. In like ancient Samaria, this kind of comes up, is like your payment is an allotment of grain. Well, how do you demark that allotment of grain? You need some kind of stand-in. That's where money comes in. It becomes, you worked this many hours, that means this, you traded in for grain. And he's taking this from various French anarchist writers and from Marx. He wants to also abolish private property. So all these farming things are all co-ops. Now, in theory, this might work.
I mean, so many things look good on paper.
Yeah.
The idea of them is essentially good. However, almost every time, as soon as it goes into practice, goes wrong.
Here's where I'm going to shit all over Pol Pot's idea. All right? And also the ideas of many old school communists and some anarchists is this. That sounds great. We're going to move all these people out farming unions. We've conquested bread, all that kind of stuff.
It does not sound great.
It doesn't sound great, right? Because we've dismantled so much industry that we've also dismantled hospitals, schools, pipe fitters,
things,
welders,
infrastructure that you don't think about because it's already in place and it's automatic.
Yeah, the fact that if you want to fertilize a field, you need an industry to produce that fertilizer. If you need tractors, you need an industry to produce those tractors.
Yep.
If like just around the farming thing, if you get sick, you need a hospital to go to. All this stuff has a tendency to break down if you don't keep a lot of the standing structures in place. So destroying the whole culture from ground up means that you don't know what to do when something goes wrong. The structures are all gone. And Pol Pot's gonna get worse.
Oh boy.
This is only the start. Are you ready for some crazy shit?
Yeah.
Now, Katie, I'm gonna look at Katya, I'm going to look at you for a second.
We can swap it to Katie or Kat. It's fine. It's fine. I answered everything up to and including, hey, you.
We're gonna take a little field trip back through time in Cambodia. You are, for the purposes of this, we're going to say that you are ethnically Khmer.
Okay.
Because otherwise I got to kill you right out.
Fabulous. I'm a millennial. I'm going to die anyway.
You're a foreigner, and you're French. And so you
Bonjour.
are, yeah, so that's a big no-no. But see, the thing is, we have to interrogate you.
Yay!
See, you're wearing glasses, and that's going to be a problem.
Why?
You're looking at me like that's the weirdest shit I've ever said to you. So, glasses
I cannot wear
mean
them, but I can't see.
But glasses mean that you're prone to reading books. That's why you wear glasses, you see. Not because you were born with strained eyes, but because...
Listen, my left eye is like square, homie.
Yeah. Right, but because
astigmatism is real.
It's a dangerous sign that you might be an intellectual. Now, all of this is kind of.
He doesn't want thinkers.
It sounds like it. Now, let me explain the thought process.
Please, because I'm struggling.
If we're gonna have a new society, you're part of the new people, quote unquote.
Year zero.
Year zero. The first thing we got to do is get a little bit Ray Bradbury with it and destroy a lot of books. Oh. See, because books tell you what the world used to be like. Intellectuals are kind of like human books. They're experts at things. Doctors, engineers, lawyers, like social workers, experts in any field know a lot of shit. Uh-huh. They know a lot of shit about a lot of stuff. And that means they know how to put that world back together. So if there's a coup, they could do it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, buddy, no.
So that starts to move very quickly. These people would be singled out in what he called, or what we now call, the purges. Oh. As stated before, the purges rounded up experts of basically any kind, but they were also ethno-nationalists. This happens in a lot of the early communisms. And that's because, like I said, that I was going to shit all over communism and some anarchism. Anarchism moved past this. well past this. Like, I referenced the conquest of bread earlier. The conquest of bread talks about making sure that link is fine. It also talks about industry. So did Marx. So did Proudhon. All these people, as they kept writing, and later guys like Gramsci, on into modern philosophers that deal with democratic socialism, which is kind of where we're at now. Most people who would have sided with communism are now in the democratic socialist vein, because that one-party system shit really doesn't work. No. It leads to a dictator really quick. The way that you deal with dictators is democracy. You and most bullet. Yeah, and most anarchists would kind of agree. They're just like, yeah, you can't have strong systems of power. If you're gonna have a system, it needs to be openly democratic, heavily democratic.
Checks and balances.
Yeah, you've got to have that power in the people's hands, ideal. And theoretically, from an anarchist perspective, you can remove most of the government unless you're talking about things that affect everyone, like healthcare services. And so now we're kind of leaning back towards the democratic socialism. That's where most leftists kind of wind up in the modern time. But this is way before this shit. So...
Oh my god.
The purges start with people that the CPK thinks are bound up around political, dangerous people, right? So if you're French, if you're white, you've probably left the country already.
Yeah.
If you're not just white, if you are, we've talked about this in the past. Asian people, like white people in America and most of Europe, we kind of go, we're white. There's a kind of like bland whiteness.
Yeah.
In America, if you're white or if you're black, you kind of know yourself as like white, black. Hispanic is kind of a broad term that a lot of people use. And sometimes, and most people don't really get hung up on the differences in those things. Like, you're definitely proud of where you come from. Like, if you're German or French or whatever, there's a bit of that. If you're Hispanic and you're like Honduran or Mexican or Nicaraguan, there's definitely a cultural pride in where you come from. In Asia, not Asia, Americans in Asia, but like in Asia, there is so much deep history that no one really says as a blanket term Asian. It's, you are very much like part of your Thai, your Korean, your Chinese, your Japanese, your whatever, right? Like all over Asia.
And usually within those groups, they will break it down into regions too.
Yeah, there's a lot of ethnic diversity in a lot of these places, especially when you get into the island states.
Yes.
Like the Philippines and Indonesia have a lot of diversity inside of them. And so you've got this kind of breakdown. Who they consider political rivals almost immediately is basically anyone who's not Khmer. So if you're part of the peoples that live that are not Khmer, that live out in the jungles, if you're ethnically Chinese, if you're French, if you're ethnically Vietnamese, even because of the little like weird spat they have, they start to separate from the Viet Minh or Viet Cong at this point. So they get really weird with it. Now I'm going to backtrack for a second. Sol,
Pol Pot.
I mentioned earlier that he was part ethnic Chinese.
Yeah.
Now this is kind of like, this is a breakdown of Sol. Sol means pale, or Solith means one of the part of his name means pale, denoting his very pale skin, because he is part ethnically Chinese. This is a case with a lot of dictators. They kind of go like, like Hitler. Hitler's like, all Jews are bad, and then like he himself has some Jewish lineage in his family.
Yeah.
So, like, they do this a lot. A big thing with him, if you were connected to the government at all, you're rousted up. If you're a journalist, you get rousted up.
That tracks.
Right. Because you can't have that shit. This person whose job it is to relay information is a living, breathing reminder of how we came to the current point. So if you fuck up at all, they're the ones who are going to tell everybody you fucked up. So they go after the journalist pretty quickly. All of this is going to lead to the rounding up of millions of people. The population of Cambodia, somewhere between 8 and 10 million at the start of this. I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, 8 million.
I'm just going to remind you of it. Where are you at right now, mentally?
concerned. Oh no, because like this is like we've established that this is a very like ethnically and almost culturally like mishmash of many people have been through this area. So like you said yourself that our leading man, our main character here is of Chinese lineage.
Yeah.
And
So before we get into the dark shit, I'm going to take a quick backtrack to tell you about our boy Pol Pot's youth and his growing up, because I want you to see. I'm sure I'm coming off in this like super spastic, and I'm just like randomly yelling off dates and times and what's going on.
No. It's got a flow and a reason to it, so I'm following.
I'm so excited. It's the worst, but like I shouldn't be excited about this. But
no, I get it.
My like favorite thing in the world is teaching people about history, and so if I get a person who's like, "You don't know what this is,"
you are correct. I do not know what this is. Please educate me.
I get so fucking crazy about this. So we said before that he grew up in like some Buddhist schools. Mm-hmm. You had questions? We're gonna read.
I'm not sure if I have questions or like accusations, because you've paid special and careful detail to not only his ethnic and cultural background, but like where he's gone to school, what he's been doing with his life. Like it's giving Hitler, and not in the Hugo Boss fashion way. I said it. I don't know what I said, but I said it. You've mentioned the population 3 times. So I'm assuming that we are about to head into a very pointed and catastrophic dip in the population.
It's gonna be pretty terrible. We're gonna get into how stupid this motherfucker is later, like, because he does stuff. We haven't mentioned the name of his political party. I've been really holding away. I've called them the CPK a couple of times. So they are known by most people as the Khmer Reds, right? Because communists are called Reds.
Yeah.
What's the word for red in French?
Rouge.
Rouge. The Khmer Rouge.
Oh!
Yeah. Now you got it.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, that's what this was about. Oh my fucking god.
That's it. This is about the Khmer Rouge. For those people are listening, the fucking spark went off, and then she was like, "Oh shit!" Like, yes, Pol Pot is the leader of the Khmer Rouge.
Oh my fucking god!
He's the guy with the little like Afghan on and the little brown suit that is in the farm fields.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that was this.
Yeah. Pol Pot is incredibly interesting as a monster of history because people often don't know who he is.
As evidence, right the fuck now.
But they know who the Nazis are, right? Like it's like not knowing who Hitler is, but knowing who the Nazis are. Everyone knows the Khmer Rouge because the Khmer Rouge don't go away.
No.
They don't go away until the 90s.
Yeah. Like that, this is recent dark history.
We were in school when this man died.
Yeah.
Me and my wife were talking about this earlier. I tracked it back. I was in the 9th grade.
Damn.
So, like, the whole story of this guy's really fucking bizarre. I'm going to backtrack into his childhood for a little while just to get you...
Please, because, like, from what it sounds to me, like, his childhood was... his childhood and younger years even were privileged.
Yeah, relatively, right?
Better term, like.
So he's not alone in that. Stalin was the same way. Stalin was middle class.
I'm going to tell you a secret. I actually don't know a whole lot about Stalin.
You know, that's not unheard of, especially for like in America. That's not super unheard of because we went through a period of history where like reading about the communists was very much a no-no.
Yeah, that was
right. So, maybe we'll do something in the future about, because there is a particularly morbid story about Stalinism's regime This guy really is. He's really. I mentioned the glasses thing earlier. Mm-hmm. Right, we're verging.
These are large leaps and assumptive accusations almost. Like, because I have glasses, that means I am a scholar, therefore a threat.
Yeah,
bro, I have glasses because I'm blind.
Yeah, it's not. But they're on the lookout for anybody who is seen in a very weird counter-communistic way, because the early communists often saw themselves as the intellectuals. Right, they were dealing with political theory, economic theory. Russia, or rather the Soviet Union, went out of their way to put this forward. Like, they had chess championships were a big thing with Russia for a long time. So they wanted to be seen as the intellectuals. We're not just, like brutal farmers or whatever. We're gonna, in Romania, for instance, the communist leader of Romania saw the height of civilization as being urban. Mm-hmm. Karl Marx himself was largely writing about urban factory workers when he says, like, the proletariat. He's not talking about, like, farmers. He's talking about factory workers owning the factory that they work at. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm still reeling over this. Like, this is something like that has lurked in the bowels of my knowledge, because it is recent history, and that's not. As shameful it is for me to say, that recent history is not something that I, hold on to as obsessively as, old or ancient history. That might be indicative of my ability to hold grudges, and perhaps that is not, this, wow!
Yeah. And, it's a little bit nebulous, right?
You just, Khmer Rouge was, a boogeyman.
Like a boogeyman that you don't really know what they've done.
Yeah, right? But, I know it's a whole bunch of bad shit. I know, you said it.
Yeah.
Completed the sentence, and my brain immediately set off all of the, the warning. Because this was in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's why I wanted you to, what's the French word for red? And I was wanted to see that light click over, because most people know this. It's a little bit like most people don't know the word Sturmgewehr, right? Mm-hmm. But if I go, it's a stormtrooper, they go, fuck, it's the Nazis, that's what they think. That's how they react to it. And so we'll get into why this guy is a boogeyman, and why, because he really is. He really is a piece of shit. And it's rough to talk about, mm-hmm. because many of the people who survived his fuckery
are still around.
Still alive. Yeah, they're still around. And so, kind of in a more sobering note, because I've been kind of taking light of it. When we get into what he's done, it's so fucking crazy, and it's important to remember, it's not just what he did. Even after he was deposed for a time, he still had followers. People were very much in the cult of Pol Pot. This is the kind of you still see in Russia, right? In not too far long ago, there would be old men marching in Red Square with communist banners, talking about Stalin. These cults of personality get so strong. When Mao Zedong died, when Chairman Mao of China died, right? He had a very much our dear father thing going on, mm-hmm. very much like the Kim Jong Un, or his father actually, Kim Jong Il. There's a national funerary for him.
Yeah.
Mao Zedong killed 5 million people. There's no way around that. No matter how much good he did. For some people, right? Because if you were a serf in China, your life definitely got better after Mao Zedong, if you survived it. If you survived that cultural shift.
God.
The 5-year plans of Stalin killed millions of people, probably more deadly than the Germans, which is wild, because 20 million Russian died in that war. But I think the reason why I want to backtrack to his childhood for a while is because it's kind of important to see how these people get made and the culture that they came up in. And we've talked a lot about communism and anarchism, and I talked a little bit about how it's progressed since
Hilariously,
then.
these are common topics in our group of friends.
Yeah. and it's I mentioned all that because Mao happened, Stalin happened, the various micro USSR rulers of Europe happened, and they failed aggressively. And a lot of people learned from that, and from the successes. I want to highlight that because Vietnam is going on in this person's like upbringing and while he's fighting for the CPK. Mm-hmm. And Vietnam definitely had its bad points, right? And then Vietnam kind of came out of the other side of it. When's the last time you heard anything about Vietnam in U.S. news?
Like, not in any kind of recent memory.
So you can take a vacation to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Like now. You can go buy a vacation package where you'll go to Hanoi or what is called Ho Chi Minh City. Mm-hmm. And you can stay in a hotel and go see the landmarks. And they've built big bridges. There's a big bridge with like big hands holding up the road that gets seen on the internet a lot. That's in Vietnam.
That's cool.
Yeah, they've moved, like, they did okay. They still have problems. There's still militants out in the woods. You know, like, they have their issues. They learned a lot. A lot of the reason why Vietnam didn't go as bad as the other places did is because they didn't start off as any kind of, like, necessarily ethnic or Leninist movement. Because I don't want to say just communist movement, because actual communism has nothing to do with Stalin, Lenin, or Mao. They started off as a nationalist movement, mm-hmm. of just like, we don't want to be colonized. That was their whole goal. And we're going to get back to Vietnam.
Yeah, because this all kicked off with, hey, help us kick the French out.
Yeah, the whole thing was about getting rid of the colonial powers. And then later it was about getting rid of Americans. And that's kind of where it goes brutal.
Mood.
Because they were not super nice, but neither were we. From their perspective, you know, like we're bombing all over the place, that they're mad, they're very angry, right? So, and have a lot of heartbreak and trauma. The other place that things go pretty well is in Spain. Before and during World War II, Spain had an anarchist movement that was called the CNT-FIA, where they won for a little while. There was an anarchist non-state, I guess as you might say, and in Spain.
That's cool. I didn't know this.
Yeah, if you look online today, you will still hear people every once in a while saying "Viva la Fi." The "Viva la Fi" is about anarchist Catalonia, mm-hmm. and they did it. They kicked everybody out, and they kicked out the kingdom's powers. They organized farming. They organized schools, and again, it starts off as a nationalist, non-authoritarian movement. What happens in Spain is way more about modernizing than it is about necessarily anti-bourgeoisie rhetoric, right? Mm-hmm. It has a kind of philosophical backbone. And they have ideas about how they're going to do these things. When we get into the Khmer Rouge, they don't really have any ideas. You'll see very quickly that, like, they're fighting against the king, and then they're fighting for the king, and they go back and forth.
And then they dismantle everything.
Yeah. Because this is what a lot of people refer to as utopianism, right? Like, people have this idea of a perfect world, and they know the end goal. The end goal is utopia, but they don't really have any plans on how they're going to get there.
Yep.
And that's where everything goes to shit. It's because inevitably, when things have zero plans, some dickhead is going to stand up and say, I know how to do this, and that guy is 100% a megalomaniac. Because he never trusted, he never doubted himself a moment.
That's terrifying. Can you imagine having an ego like that?
No. I can't. Here's how far this guy's going to go, all right? So I've told you he grew up pretty middle class, upper class. And I want to tell you some things about his childhood. He left a small village called Prexpaov. I'm fucking this up so bad. It's a city. It's a small little like village that's outside of Kampong Tom, which is a pretty small city in Cambodia. In this day, it's pretty common for you to be adopted or go live with a wealthier cousin or something like that if you show promise, right? So he does that. He goes to his cousin's house. His cousin, I'm going to say it's Miak. I hope I'm saying this correctly. She was a consort of King Sisilwath Manivong.
Okay, that explains his connection to...
Yeah, where his money's coming, right?
Yeah.
This is how his father is a little more wealthy. He has some connections to the palace.
Yeah.
All right. His cousin's a consort. Later on, she's going to be a ballet teacher. This is a person of like... Remember, this is French colonialism, so a person of culture in that environment is that she's very French, right? She's a ballet teacher. She's a consort and a king. When Star was 6, he and an older brother went to live with Miak in Phnom Penh in informal adoption. This is where he goes to serve in or learn in as a novice in a Buddhist monastery, so he kind of learns about Buddhism.
Okay.
I bring this up because I have no information on what happened in the monastery, but later on he's going to come down really hard on Buddhism and Catholicism.
Bro, who hurt you?
Yeah, so this is where he learns to read and write the Khmer language. This is the start of his like true education. When he goes later on in 1935, he goes to live with his brother and his brother's wife and kids. In the year that he goes into the Roman Catholic primary school, so he spends a little time. He learns about Christianity, the Roman Catholic religion. This is more like French upbringing, and probably where he's starting to really like, to some degree, idolize France as a place of the future. It's also, however, important that many of his classmates are the sons and daughters of colonizers. So a lot of his classmates are French bureaucrats' kids. Again, he's going to come down really fucking hard on religion later.
What the hell?
So there's got to be something in that. When he goes to France to go to college, essentially, right, and he makes friends and all that kind of stuff. He joins the Communist Party there. He's kind of getting into this post-World War II idyllic France, where there's a lot of like, this is in the time of like French philosophy. Like French philosophy is booming in this time period, in like the 50s, 60s, 70s. So he's becoming very idealistic about a lot of French philosophy, without kind of any of the planning side of it. Coming back to the rise of the CPK and this new government that they've got going, they've kicked out the king.
His poor cousin.
Yeah, I assume that's when she becomes a ballet teacher.
Jesus.
So
my meal ticket.
Right, the whole thing, right, is you're kind of like, I'm sure that's not an ideal life, but also what's going to come worse is it's staggering how fucked this is. To give you some background, the French lose Vietnam in 1954. Lon Nol takes over in 1970 as the president of the Khmer Republic from 1972 to 1975. The Khmer Rouge are active in total from 1951 on to the 90s.
Jesus.
They are an insurgency from 68 to 75. That's when they're doing this back and forth, and they join the Viet Minh, and they side with the king and all that, but like just back and forth. Their rule really starts in 1975. That's how recent this is. This is our parents' generation.
This is MASH.
Yeah. Yeah, the Korea that wasn't Vietnam and MASH.
Yep.
This is that era. There's helicopters and jets in the air. Yeah. This is new. This is not like ancient history.
Jesus.
This is recent. This is post. The Korean War was fought from 1950 to 1953. So this is post Korea. Vietnam War officially kind of kicks off in 1955 and ends in 1975. We're post Vietnam. And our boy Pol Pot. Oh, the thing that I was going to jump back to also, just a weird side note, on a visit to Meek in King's Palace is where he has his first sexual experiences with the king's concubines. So later on, when Pol Pot's like, I was always a young farm worker, keep that shit in mind. This guy had an open ticket to the king's concubine harem. He was not a poor country boy.
Yeah.
Fuck this guy. Yeah.
Somehow I fucking knew he was going to twist it around.
So...
Because they always do.
Because they always do. As a matter of fact, he's going to say, despite his family's relatively prosperous origins, in an interview with the Yugoslav television show in 1977, Pol Pot claimed that he was born into a poor peasant family. Remember when I said that his father owned about 10 times as much land as all the people around him?
And his cousin's a consort of the king?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was able to go to Paris to get a...
Yeah, right?
Oh, his
you fucking liar.
His... To some degree, it's relatively true, but like his education at the Roman Catholic school was paid for by his cousin. Like, he had connections from the start.
Yeah.
He wasn't rich, but he damn sure wasn't a poor peasant. You know what I mean? Like,
not at all.
No, he had connections and money. He went to a school of French diplomats.
Yeah.
So...
Kid, you grew up privileged.
So now that we're well and thoroughly into year 0, no books, no glasses, all that kind of stuff.
My glasses.
Let's take
Can't see without my glasses.
Let's take a second field trip.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Because the last one was so delightful.
We're going to a high school. Not the one that Pol Pot was in. It's just a lovely high school. Tuol Sve Pre High School. Named after the royal ancestor of King Sihanouk. The 5 buildings complex were converted in March or April, because we don't necessarily know. They didn't keep great records without any books around.
Can't fucking imagine.
1976, it was converted into a prison and an interrogation center. Other buildings in town already had been used as prison S21.
You say that, and I feel like it should have some significance to me, but it doesn't.
Oh, man, is it gonna?
Oh, no.
The Khmer Rouge named the complex Security Prison Number 21, and construction began to adapt the prison for the inmates. The buildings were enclosed in electrified barbed wire. The classrooms converted into tiny prisons and torture chambers. All the windows were covered in iron bars and barbed wire to prevent escapes and suicides.
Oh, my God.
After the first round, guards are going to start really paying attention, and they have a certain routine to make sure that people aren't hiding like stuff, because people in Cambodia, when they were detained, started to like carry knives on them in order to just kill themselves.
Jesus.
Because the rumors got so bad. From 1976 to 1979, an estimated 20,000 people were imprisoned. Now remember, I alluded to a number earlier.
Yeah.
This is one of many prisons. Number 21, in fact. This is number 21 of many prisons. They are scattered everywhere.
I don't like this.
Here's our field trip. This is a day in the life segment.
Oh, no.
Of a person with glasses, or an intellectual, or a person suspected of having French connections, anything like that. Let's say counter-government leanings. Upon arrival at the prisons, prisoners were photographed and required to give detailed autobiographies, beginning with their childhood and ending with their arrest. This is a tactic that is used a lot in like despotisms. It like breaks you.
Really?
Yeah, because they start getting really aggressive about details of your early life that you can't necessarily recall, and then what they're doing is they're grooming you into lying. You can't remember things about your early childhood, but if I like torture you enough, you're just going to start making them up. After that, they were forced to strip down to their underwear, and their possessions were confiscated. The prisoners were then taken to their cells. Those taken to smaller cells were shackled to the walls or the concrete floor. Those who were held in large mass cells were collectively shackled to long pieces of an iron bar. So, like, similar to, like, slave cells, right? The shackles were fixed to alternating bars. The prisoners slept with their heads in opposite directions. They slept on the floor without mats, mosquito nets, or blankets, and were forbidden to talk to each other, or they would be beaten. This is all from... I need to cite this. Maybe citing this a little bit later because I'm going to have to look up exactly where this is from. One of these things is from Anna Wengel, who writes for Travel Book. A day would begin in the prison at 4:30 where prisoners were ordered to strip for inspection. The guards would check to see if the shackles were loose or if they had hidden objects against the suicide warning. Over several years, many people were able to do that, so they got real jumpy about it. Mm-hmm. The prisoners received 4 small spoonfuls of rice porridge and a watery soup of leaves twice a day. So that requires a little bit of explanation. They don't mean like leaves from trees. They mean like there's a kind of food in the area that use beef and a very specific leaf, and you can like eat it. It's a little bit like saying sausage and cabbage.
I was about to say cabbage.
Yeah, it's a similar thing. This is a very small amount of food, though, right? Drinking water without asking the guards for permission would result in serious beatings. The inmates were hosed down every 4 days. Oh. That's their shower time.
So it stank.
Yeah, very much so. Infection's going to become a thing.
Yeah.
Like lice, sores, different like
general
bacterial infections.
Illness. Like this, you want plague? This is how we get plague.
Yeah, if anybody in here,
superbugs.
Yeah, if anybody in here has tuberculosis, everybody's got tuberculosis. Yep. Like that's gonna spread. That's the thing in prison now. Almost every action had to be approved by one of the guards. Like if you scratched your face, you had to ask permission. Ugh. You weren't allowed to talk to any of the people, and other than asking for permissions, the guards never spoke to you. When you were moved from cell to cell, they put a mask over your face, so you never really knew where you were. This is not totally uncommon in like gulag type things, is that they don't want you to know where you are so that you can't escape.
Yeah.
You get disoriented, right? The prisoners were forced sometimes to eat feces and drink urine as a form of torture.
Awesome.
Yeah. I wish I could say is the worst of it.
Oh, no.
We've seen old action movies.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that's attributed to Vietnamese tortures of like inmates of like John McCain describes in a lot of his stuff, they're doing the same shit. Fingernails, electric hot rods, all that kind of stuff. The Vietnamese shower thing where they put the shower over you and then hit you with an electric rod to shock you. That's very much done here. Are you ready for like maybe the worst thing?
Yep, bring it on. Let's go.
Because right now we're just talking about the prisons.
Oh, I love the way you phrased that. Pray, go on.
This is the worst thing that you're probably going to hear of the prisons until we get later on. Let's stop for a second so I can explain why they're doing all this torturing. If they just thought you were a traitor, they would just shoot you. Mm-hmm. What they need is a confession. Mm-hmm. Pol Pot's regime, the Khmer Rouge, get really, really paranoid, and they start really looking out for espionage. A lot of people that are imprisoned for espionage because they have some tie to the French or the Vietnamese. And when they get into here, they need to justify their brutality. And that's really what's happening here, is that everybody's in the cult of Pol Pot, and he's like, I know there's guys out there, go find guys. And then you get them, and to justify it to your own psyche, you've got to prove that these people really are bad guys. Otherwise, you're just killing innocent people. So what's really happening here is that there's a little bit of that, is that a lot of the guards are equally like is apeshit scared, and they don't really know what's going on. I say a lot of them because some of them are very much the problem. The guy that runs this specific thing, S21, is pretty damn terrible in his own right. Everything I ever read about the guy is just kind of like, and that was his job. His job was just to murder people, and he seemed to be okay with it.
Oh, joy.
So here's the worst part of SR21 that I've came across. There was a medical unit in S21.
The name would imply that it is a medical facility, like a hospital for helping people.
Yeah.
The smile on your face says otherwise.
Well, you remember how we talked about you got to purge those professionals and the people that might know of, like, the old world.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do if those professionals are also doctors? So now we got a medical unit that didn't really have a lot of doctors.
Yep.
Or nurses of any. The medical unit at Tuol Sleng, however, did kill at least 100 prisoners by bleeding them to death. It is proven that medical experiments were performed on certain prisoners. There is clear evidence that patients in Cambodia were sliced open and had organs removed with no anesthetic. Absolute fucking monsters.
Oh my god. Like, I know that we all know about, like, field amputations and stuff, but...
Yeah, this is just done to be cruel.
Yeah.
There's not... You know, like, I'm sure someone out there made the excuse of, like, well, he had appendicitis or something like that. This is just done because if you create a horror show, everyone else will confess faster.
Yeah.
Right? That is 100% what's going on here.
So this was done to just make people fall in line.
Yeah. There's nothing else going on. This is a horror factory.
That is straight up nauseating.
Typical confessions ran into thousands of words in which the prisoners would interweave true events in their lives with imaginary accounts of their espionage activities for CIA, the KGB, or Vietnam. Physical torture was combined with sleep deprivation and deliberate neglect of the prisoners. The torture implements are on display in the museum. In this high school that became a prison cell, sometime later, it was reopened as a kind of museum, as a memorial. And all over Cambodia, and we'll get on a little bit later, but all over Cambodia there's memorials.
God.
Memorials to what were called the killing fields.
Yeah.
And, sorry, this shit's wearing on me. So I've got some writing from Anna Wingle, who writes for Travel Book. She visited Cambodia and wrote about her experience there and the kind of, like, just shattering things that were in the aftermath of this. A tree appears utterly ordinary at first glance, a thick gray-brown trunk crowned with green foliage, just like any other tree. If there weren't hundreds of colorful bracelets hanging from it, and if there wasn't a sign that tells the story of the killing tree in Cambodia, in 7 words, the killing tree against which executioners beat children. The audio guide tells us the story in more words, although I can't remember the exact wording. The voice in my ear says something like, "You will now come to a large tree on your right. There were also children and babies amongst the prisoners. They were silenced at the killing tree. Their heads were smashed against the thick trunk until their screams ceased and their breath was no more."
My God.
This is the boogeyman part. This is why I think so many people don't really know about Pol Pot and the killing fields in our generation or younger. The subject matter is so dark, it's hard to put on, like, a TV show. You can't, like, talk about it without immediately being an NC-17.
Yeah.
Right? Like, to get into how bad this gets. Cambodia's population was somewhere between, like, 8 and 10 million people.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of Pol Pot's reign of terror, somewhere between 1.7 and 2.2 million Cambodians died in a 4-year time span. So it is believed that the country lost 25% of its population in 4 years. After this, the Vietnamese invade Cambodia because some of these atrocities spill into Vietnam, and then that's when they get wind of it. Mm-hmm. And they kind of already had wind of it, but we do this thing like Susie Izzard says, like, we're kind of fine with it as long as it stays within your own country.
Yeah. Like,
humans in general kind of do this. And I'm not really sure if they knew or not, but I do know that it spills over into the borders. A lot of the victims are just people of Vietnamese heritage that happen to be working in Cambodia. And I guess didn't leave because they thought, well, it's just another communist regime. It's going to take over, like in Vietnam. Vietnam, where most of them were fine, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it spills over into Vietnam. And Vietnam is a much larger country. Currently, Vietnam has more than 100 million people in it. It's big, right? It's Japan big. It's like, It is a highly industrialized place with a lot of cities, everything. It's at the end of the delta. It has sea access. Cambodia and Laos are very small countries. They just don't have a lot of people in them because it's very difficult to build the economy up there. People who survived this atrocity, we talk about like COVID. COVID in America killed like 1 million people, right? Like it killed like 1 in every 330 of us or something like that. But we all knew someone who died of COVID. Like everybody knows somebody or knows somebody's like brother or sister or wife or whatever. 1 in 4. Like you not only know somebody, it was everybody. Like it's the miracle is that you made it out.
Yeah.
Right after this happens, because Pol Pot is such a fucking idiot. I mean, like, this is how dumb this shit got. At one point, they replanted rice paddies. Mm-hmm. They replanted fields to closely resemble a checkerboard pattern on the flag. So they just stopped a farm season in order to, like, rearrange this field.
Why?
I don't know. I don't fucking know. Some kind of weird, crazy, misguided nationalism.
Why? Like, what? Why?
Yeah, it makes no sense, does it?
At all. Like, I can think of no reason.
The only reason I was able to see is that, like, it was to closely resemble some design from their regime. And it was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, it's so bizarre. He caused such a massive food crisis that after Pol Pot, because the Vietnamese fucking win, right? They come in and they fucking knock fucking heads. Like, there's 100 million of them. You know what I mean? Like,
period.
And the army that comes into Cambodia just got through fighting America.
Yeah, so they're tired.
And they're good. These are not novices. This is a generation of battle-hardened fighters. They come in and immediately, it's done. It's not a long fight. They win. Except for... during this fight, we are solidly... because remember I said he took over in 1975?
Yeah.
We are fervently in our anti-communist bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? We have been for a long time. The reason why they don't get displaced is because a lot of the world powers, including China, believe it or not, what's called the APAC, which is a lot of the major countries in China, in Asia, mm-hmm. or on Asia-Pac Rim, and America back the fucking Khmer Rouge.
What?
Yeah. And during their insurgency, Pol Pot, like the time that they're insurgents and they're not in control, Pol Pot disavows communism, takes up, he says democratic socialism. Remember, there's one party, there's no democratic process.
At all. There's
2 other groups. So to be fair to America and Britain, because Britain is involved in this as well, both the American Britons are kind of backing the other party, which is not... so the Vietnamese are in control.
Uh-huh.
We're kind of backing the king, right? We're not really backing the Khmer Rouge necessarily, but we are kind of, because they're all in a coalition together.
Oh.
So in order
this is messy.
Yeah. In order to strengthen allyship between the three... the Pol Pot disavows communism and Maoism, and he says he disavows specifically like the Leninist ideas, and embraces democratic socialism, which is kind of on the popular side of, it's starting to grow kind of for the first time. Mm-hmm. in the 70s. It's starting to become a present idea of like, maybe we can do the altruistic stuff and keep governments in place, which means that people don't like mass starve to death. Mm-hmm. There's a pushback. Vietnam holds out. They hold out into the 80s. And eventually, these guys do come to a peace treaty, mm-hmm. because Vietnam's holdout, the reason why they did not come to a peace treaty immediately, is because Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge were involved. Their stipulation was, sure, we'll hand the country over, but they can't have anything to do with it. And we said, nah.
Oh, come on.
That was the breaking point. All the allied nations in this thing, the argument was that we just wanted to place fucking Pol Pot back in his position of power. That will blow my mind until I fucking die. I don't understand. Anything as long as he's not, as long as he's somebody we can control. And the thing is...
control crazy like that, though.
Yeah, but what they're scared of is that the Vietnamese are going to rule the country, and they're going to rule it well. And they're going to expand and become a new Asian communist bloc. Because the other Asian nations don't like Maoism. Maoism has not been very successful in the time period. Mm-hmm. It's been successful in China. But even China knows, they call it, in their present-day parlance, socialism with Chinese characteristics. They know it's a Chinese system. It works in China, and that's it. The rest of the world's culture isn't geared for it like they are. So Vietnam, which is way more nationalist than it is communist, is a threat to the rest of the world because this might work.
Yeah, but the other guy's killing babies.
Yeah.
Smashing their heads.
Against the tree, by the way.
Ugh.
When you read stuff about this, it's like with makeshift weapons because they don't have the ammo.
My God.
They don't remember they destroyed all their industry.
Yeah.
So they don't got the guns.
So let me get this straight. Everyone else is saying, "Hey, throw this guy out," and we're just like, "Nah." Now we like the crazy.
We like the coalition. So there's 3 different parties, right? One is the king and his family. Mm-hmm. So old system.
Yeah.
One is the Khmer Rouge, and one is a splinter fraction thing. That's its own thing, right? We back the coalition.
Okay.
But the Khmer Rouge are involved in the coalition.
Yeah, because the 3 of them are trying to take their country back.
Right. A lot of people refer to it as the second insurgency period. Mm-hmm. So because they were insurgents before they won in 1975. They go back to doing this and trying to fight the Vietnamese. They're not doing great. It takes them a decade to really do any substantial anything. Because they get kicked out in 1979. From 1979 to 1999, they're not the official government. But they are there. So the king, the son of the old king, gets placed in power.
Okay.
At some point, Pol Pot is placed under house arrest.
Yeah.
He is in Cambodia. So he's not really, the Khmer Party is still very much active and present. They slowly kind of peter out. Because during the period of the king being in the country, one of the major leaders leads a mass defection, and they all join the king's forces.
Okay.
So that pretty much does it. In order to keep all the people kind of from becoming zealotous about it, instead of just outright killing Pol Pot, they put him under house arrest. There he stays for a very long time. Oh, wait, I skipped a very important part. He goes under house arrest because he orders the assassination of one of his own cabinet members, and that guy puts him under house arrest.
Bro!
Paranoid.
This dude is jumping at shadows.
Yeah, fucking megalomaniac.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Fuck.
It's all about him, everybody's out to get him.
Okay. So he orders the assassination of one of his own cabinet members, and the cabinet, I presume, stands up and goes, "Whoa now. Whoa, you're grounded."
Yeah.
And he stays there.
And he stays there until 1999, where he either commits suicide himself or simply dies of a heart attack. And so many of the fucking assholes on this podcast so far, basically got away with it.
There were no repercussions. He was grounded.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
To this day, if you go to Cambodia and you take one of these tours, because this is one, Miss Wengel's article that I was reading about the killing tree is one of many, many sites. And if you walk into Cambodia, there are these bambooed, walled-off areas in national parks that you can go around, and those are the sites of mass graves. Graves will hold between 6 to 100 people, and they're very shallow. So when you go around to one of these things, if it's rained recently, as we
will peek out.
Yes, as we were talking about in the Love Canal, things get pressed out of the dirt when there's a high water table. So clothing is sometimes visible in the earth. And sometimes you can see bones sticking out.
Jesus.
The colorful bracelets, this is a very Buddhist thing. Mm-hmm. But it's basically like here in America, at special places, sometimes we attach locks to the chainmail of things, mm-hmm. to the chain link fence. Colorful bracelets are a thing that's very popular. And I say it's a very Buddhist thing because a lot of Buddhist sites have, especially around Nepal and places like that, have those flag runners that have like a ton of color on them. And it's just as a memoriam. God. But there are... I'm going to show you some pictures, and also I'll describe them over the thing. So another one of these places is called the Well of Shadows.
Oh, no.
A suitably scary and dark name. It's a tall structure that has like a glass encasement around it, and the bottom is a big stonework thing. The bottom depicts the killings in the rice fields and such. And at the top, in the glass casements, are skulls. So this is another very Buddhist thing. It's there's a kind of memoriam.
Deeply horrifying.
So there's these things in Cambodia called stupas. Stupas are a Buddhist memorial. They look like a tower, and they often have pointed roofs, triangular design. The stupas that you find around these national parks encase a lot of the bones and clothing of the people in the killing fields. And I'm going to show you a picture of one of the stupas, the glass cases that hold the skulls. This is the one outside of S21. Mm-hmm. One of this one comes up a lot because of how many people pass through. At any given time, a little more than 1,000 people were in that prison.
How many of them walked out of it? Not many.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
As far as I know, from all the reading that I did, no foreigners that went in came out. And one prison, I think, had 6 people leave.
Oh my God.
Out of thousands upon thousands.
Jesus.
And so, I mean, the Chief Dutch, that was the guy that ran S21 was called Dutch. This is how hard this is. Somewhere between 12 and 20,000 people were imprisoned in S21, according to one survey. We just don't know. I mean, we just don't know. There's so many people went through there. But this is one of the insides of one of the stupas. It's just horrifying, but also in a very weird way.
It reminds me of the catacombs.
That's exactly what I thought.
I understand the memorial of it, but it's still...
And suitably, right, the catacombs were largely filled with who they were filled with because of Black Death. This could very much be called Cambodia's Red Death. This is... I mean, a quarter.
And this dude never got any consequences.
Not really. Yeah, he got house arrest and he died of old age.
God. That's infuriating.
It pisses me off so much because you want this guy to get his comeuppance, right? Like you want him to be drugged by his hair to the tree that they smashed babies against, and just have somebody kick him in the face until he dies. Like that. But a lot of these guys get away with it.
The big thing that I'm seeing is the Great Leap Forward was made to try to industrialize and bring them out of what they felt was behind.
Yeah.
This bullshit wasn't doing that. It was erasure.
Yeah. It's like the total opposite. It's not only bad because it's so fast, because that's something that comes up over and over and over again. You cannot make social change to this degree without ending millions of lives.
And it was 4 years?
Yeah.
Of this active... Bro, that's not how it works. That's not how it works.
Yeah, not only did he completely dismantle their society and did irreparable damage to their institutions of education, spirituality, industry, everything. But
not to mention the agricultural setback. Yeah,
in a very dumb way, right? His whole thing was an agricultural utopia, but he kind of ruined it.
Yeah, he fucked it up.
Yeah, it's... In comparison, Vietnam has about 100 million people in it. About 80% of their rice comes from Vietnam. They grow almost all of their own staple crop for 100 million people.
God.
Just really to hammer home how fucking stupid you.
Yeah, I can't get over the sheer enormity of how unbelievably, like, even I who don't have any kind of formal education in any of this, like history in general is just kind of a hobby for me, and like while you are reading about histories, you learn social structures, how governments in areas work, like how agriculture can directly affect the industry of the area.
Yeah.
I have no formal education into this, and even you said it, and I immediately went, oh no.
Yeah.
He might as well have just torched everything, because it honestly, setting everything on fire would have had less effect.
Yeah, it might actually have like, done some good. Like, that's...
Oh my god!
So there was a time period to visualize this, where the cities had almost nobody in them.
Yeah, because they took everyone out and threw them on farms.
And of course that didn't work.
No.
And everybody resisted it, so you had a bunch of these prisons and...
Jesus Christ.
A side thing to this whole story is that... So there was an American boat, came really close, and washed ashore. Uh-huh. Those guys died.
Yeah.
We think some Pakistani people died. We think some, because we don't fucking know. Nobody knows where they are. They kept no records. They actively... Of
course not. They burned all the books.
Yeah, they burned a ton of books. They set the country back decades upon decades. In the end, the country was saved by another country invading them.
Yeah.
They started to see...
How did we pick them?
Yeah, you gotta worry about those filthy Reds. And it was a dumb thing, because it's like in the coalition, and to be fair to the coalition, the one that won out was the king. The king ended up there. Currently, there's a semi-democratic government. The Khmer Rouge completely disbanded by 1999. There's not even... They actually turned themselves in.
Really?
There was only like 4,000 of them. They ended up turning themselves in to the king's government, basically. Mm-hmm. And then, currently, they're still trying to rebuild. There's, investment.
And large portions of this happened in our lifetime.
Yeah. At least the latter half
the latter half of it, yeah.
Certainly in my, infancy is when a lot of the reintegration of the current government is happening. And then there's, peace treaties with the Khmer Rouge and all that stuff. He dies in 1999. Like I said, I was in high school.
Yeah.
I was a freshman, and I don't remember any big news boom about Pol Pot dying. To end on a funny note, mm-hmm. In the picture that I just showed you with the bas relief of skulls in S21, there's a sign that says no Pokemon. Funny, but also some fucking dickhead. It's Auschwitz has one of those. Nope, when Pokemon Go is big, no Pokemon in fucking Auschwitz, because people wanted to see if they could catch a ghastly or something in there.
Oh, that's awful. Oh,
just it kind of sells. It really sells the. We just forget about this shit so easily.
Yeah, Literally, this happened in the 70s and went on until 1999.
Yeah. The guy that was responsible was still in his house in the country in 1990.
This was my life. I was almost moving to Texas. I spoke French, Japanese, a bit of German, and really bad English at this point.
Oh, there's no way you're making it in Cambodia. You got all the enemy languages. Japanese, French, those are no-goes. And you're wearing glasses?
Oh, and at that point I was a little blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl.
Yep. Next time I do one, I promise it won't be this dark.
Oh. God.
there's not even really anything you could like bitch about. It's just you hear it and you're just like, oh god, this is horrible.
Yeah.
There's nothing because it's already happened. There's no railing against it.
It's so recent, and because it was so quick.
Yeah.
Like it was a 4-year blip.
Yeah. Yeah, he beat the 5-year plan out by like a year and a half.
Shut up.
Yeah.